Welcome, everybody, to the YouTube channel. I'm your host, Nate Allbaugh, here in Fort Myers, Florida. You wouldn't believe that I'm in Fort Myers, Florida, because I'm bundled up, I have a fire, and I'm still cold. Apparently, I'm here on the coldest night of the year in Fort Myers, but hey, it still beats being back home. Today we're talking single wing, but not necessarily diving into the single wing. This is if you want to add a little single wing package to your playbook. So you consider yourself a spread guy, but you're smart enough to know, hey, Andy Reid is smart enough to know, I want to pull something from the single wing. What do they do well? And how can we add this little package to our playbook to make us more potent and more lethal? Well, as I love to say, don't learn it from me, go to an expert. And I'm here with an expert, the head football coach at Immokalee High School, a longtime single winger, though it sounds like his offense is kind of transforming a little bit, but he's still got that single wing core, James Delgado. Coach Delgado, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. So what can you show us that we could add to our package here that's like single wing based?
Well, I do think you're right. I think there's room for it in every offense, and it's something that complements what you do already. I'm almost positive. The difference is just making sure you put personnel in the right place and making sure that you keep it simple for your guys. Like, we do not overcomplicate our single wing package. We don't do enough out of it. We are truly a multiple offense that is a typical spread offense. We run inside zone, and we run wide zone, and we run counter and power, and a lot of other things, but it's all out of traditional spread sets, mostly 10 personnel, maybe some 20, and a lot of 11 personnel. But in our single wing package, we try to run the same things, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. On the screen here, you can see my contact info. Feel free to reach out to me. That QR code there will give you all of my contacts. So it's my email, Twitter, whatever, and then obviously my cell phone's listed right there below it. So feel free to utilize that. But let's dive in. I was talking earlier about some of the things we do offensively and how we keep schemes simple. And so let's dive right into gap scheme, and let's talk about power first, which is God's play, and so I'm sure many of you run it. And I'm just going to show you a simple 21 personnel that we run it out of. This is actually a package that we used one of our linemen for, but we're just running power and gave him a quick short motion across the field. And, obviously you could see it here. Nothing fancy about it. Everybody's blocking down. You've got your guard pull to backer one. You've got the kick out by the Y. And it sprung for a big play against a good defense. Now, I wanted to talk about it in the single wing just so that you could see it and see the difference. Let's go to this type view here. We run it out of an unbalanced set, and so it's a three-man surface. To the right-hand side, there's actually an extra tackle. To the left-hand side, there's the guard and an eligible tight end. And so we're just running power. It's 4th and 1 in a must-have situation. We're going for it. End up picking about 8 yards, giving us a new set of downs. And let's talk about it on playbook here. So this is just a base single wing set. Again, unbalanced formation. So you can see the X here is drawn with the X, because normally that would be our X receiver who's split out. Our Z is about 5 yards from this outside tackle. He's normally the left tackle in this case. We swing him over. He's typically our best tackle. If you had to hide a guy, you would hide him at the inside tackle position because he's covered. And more often than not, he's either down blocking or base blocking in this single wing set. This is your traditional Y. So, if you have a guy that, whatever you want to call him, an H, if you want to call him that, but you're blocking offset tight end, that's him. So we don't do anything extra with him. We just change his alignment. This is our guard, our other guard, our center, obviously now. Here will either be your quarterback if he's physical enough to handle that, or if you have two running backs, we have them both lined up here. This is more of an athletic style kid, like a H-back or somebody you'd play at slot receiver, but he also goes into the backfield for us. We try to make these guys interchangeable to where they do everything. So let's start drawing it up. Just like power for you, always. And I guess I should give you a front. So let's throw a defensive front up here. And let's say it's 4-4 because they're smart enough to walk down a safety, and they're going to give us, let's say they give us an underfront. So if we go with an underfront, all right, let's say this is the Sam backer. We're just going to walk him off the edge. Two backer set, free safety. We'll just call this strong and make him a force player. Here's your defensive end. And so, again, this is our front, giving us an underfront. They've eagled down against what we're doing here, trying to take away what we're doing. And so with our single wing set, and we're running power again, responsibility-wise, obviously you're blocking down. We try to tell kids to be on tracks, so literally railroad tracks. You're taking your track, and whatever in those tracks, you're going to take it. So in this case, they may end up comboing that end, but he knows he's responsible to get up to the second backer in the box. He's going to block down on whatever's in his tracks. The center's going to block back, and obviously you've got a guard pool like everybody else. But the beauty of single wing is the fact that you have extra hats at the point of attack. So a guard pooler is going to pool for backer one, just like you can see. This back also is going to lead block into the hole for backer one, and more often than not, he ends up on a safety. Your Y here, just like if you were running under center, I formation, the fullback kicking out the end, same responsibility here. And then he's responsible for force, and he's typically cutting off your safety. And so you can see numbers at the point of attack. Very simple. The backside tight end, in this case the receiver, we just literally make him tag out and tell him not to allow that defender to cross his face. And his job is not that serious. He's hinge blocking. So ball is direct snap. Now, I will say that takes a little bit of work. You do have to work on direct snap. You have to work on the backs, catching that on the run because they are offset. They're lined up behind the guards, but these are 1-foot splits. And that's how we block power. And if you were to look at power from our base set, all of these guys, their jobs are the same. We might change where they line up, but the responsibility doesn't change. And this gives defenses fits because you're creating another gap and you're sticking another blocker in that gap. And it's physical, hard-nosed, good football. So there's power. Now, let's go to counter. Everybody's running counter. We run a lot of GH counter. So let's just take a look at a couple clips here. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's go to the tight view. All right, so just like you, I'm sure, running GH counter, your first pooler is going to be your kicker, your second pooler wraps, and everybody else is blocking down just like they did on power. Here we're running it with the same side back, getting downhill, and we'll let this play. Ends up being a good play for us. We ended up creasing it, making the safety miss and taking it the distance, but not without really, really physical blocks up front. You'll see number 60, the left tackle, getting up to backer 2, getting a good veer release, pinning that backer inside, being physical with them. The guard pull, getting up on backer 1, or sorry, not the guard, but the Y, getting up on backer 1, and the guard pull, kicking out the end. And receivers downfield getting big-time blocks. Now, out of our single wing set, let's get to it here. We ran counter, and we run it as wingback counter. And so just like we were running power to the previous play, the back is getting a direct snap to him, but now he's handing the ball underneath to a wing. And you see a lot of flex sets doing the same thing if they were running belly counter. Same concept, right? Same principle. The difference is the extra blocker. So now that receiver that normally is split out, the Z, he's in box and he is a down blocker. We actually traded a more physical guy to do that because we needed him to do that. The guard is still my puller and kicker. My back who's here, the normal Y, he is the wrapper, and he usually fills for force. And then the wingback's getting the ball with an extra puller. So it's like GT counter because we have that extra lineman off the edge. And so I'll draw that up for you. We'll give you one more look at it on film. And again, it's just more bodies than the defense is ready to handle, especially if you've given them a little taste of single wing and they're starting to overload the strong side where that three-man surface is. You can see they have a pretty soft edge here, get an easy kick, and one defender to beat, which we were able to do and take it the distance for a touchdown in a big district game that ended up being the district championship. So let's get to drawing it up for you. All right. So if somebody ends up lining up in an overfront and let's say they go with the backer stacked, and we'll say this is a strong safety as a force player. All right. So people do this, which is fine. I just wouldn't. So running counter now to the weak side, I mentioned that in this set, the H is the guy who's getting the ball. And so just like, again, if you were running traditional under center I formation, those responsibilities, imagine that being the case. This right here is the fullback, and he's inserting away from the play to handle the defensive end, okay? At the point of attack, you're getting a down block on the nose. If there was a 3 technique, they would combo it to backer 2. He gets the veer release to backer 2. Center's going to back block, replacing the guard. Guard is pulling and trapping. We tell that cat to pull through the rib cage of the center, try to grab the hip on the way by so he's not too deep up the field, especially against the squeezing end. This inside tackle is base blocking. Now, in this case, we would expect normally for him to have a defender in that B gap. He doesn't. So he might be able to leak up to backer 1 just as an extra guy. But we do pull the Y to the play. Like I said, he's the second puller. And more often than not, he's going through the alley there to handle the force player, kind of kicking him out because you have the tackle pulling as the cleanup, and he's essentially getting on backer 3 in that case. So the back that's catching the ball literally has to catch it on the run and sell sweep, essentially. And as he's selling sweep, he's going to have a mesh. Now, this back has to be patient enough to get depth. Again, just like belly counter, if he was in the flex or if you were in a wing T set, and he's coming underneath, getting that mesh from the tailback who's handing it off to him underneath. And truly, we want this to hit over the center. We don't want this to hit off tackle. If everybody does their job the way they're capable of it, you want this cat running north and south over the center, forcing the safety to miss and hitting his head on the goalpost. So that's another simple addition. And again, this safety can this receiver can cut off the safety away from the play. A great addition and something that has been a home run hitter for us, especially when people are defending you in the traditional single wing. And again, you see this clip playing, like you see what we do offensively. The single wing is a minor piece of it, but it's been a really good piece. And then the last thing I want to talk about as an additional package, kind of marries the two, would be our sweep, right? So wide zone for us, simple, reach, rip, and run for everybody in the world, which you'll see we do it out of our spread set. And we do it a lot of different ways. We'll motion to it like we are here. We'll run it out of a 2-back and have the first back lead block. It's various formations. Here it is versus we actually get in an unbalanced formation. We shift to it. So you'll see we have 4 receivers to a single side, and we're just going to hand the ball off to the back knowing we have numbers. You'll see in this end zone view that the defense did not handle this shift very well. They literally have 4 guys to the left side of the left tackle, and there's not a receiver, there's not a back, anything over there. So needless to say, we have numbers at the point of attack. But now look at it from the single wing. So running sweep to the left, which is essentially student body left with a lot of lead blockers in front of them for a big first down. And let's get from the tight view here. Again, up front, not overly complicating it. When we major in single wing, we'll actually pull a couple of guys like you would similarly on buck sweep. But here we're not. We're literally zone blocking it. Kind of made a rule later on that if you were uncovered, you could pull. You can see we're shifting. Again, just trying to create some mismatches, keeping it simple for our kids because they know where they're going to end up. And these guys are reaching in their base package. We're not changing anything for them. The jobs don't change. The responsibilities don't change. Again, you can see we're shifting. Also, small thing, this is our quarterback. We have him split out receiver because he's furthest away from the play, and we don't want him to be making unnecessary contact. Now he's shifting to the tight end position where he's going to scoop and essentially stay out of the play. But we did that so we didn't have to change personnel from one play to another. And let's draw that up for you. before my time runs out. All right, so the last play we wanted to talk about, again, we were talking about wide zone and showed you how we drew it up out of our base spread package. Here it is out of the single wing. And, again, student body right, whatever you want to call it, right? It's one of those deals that it's tough to defend, especially if you're doing just a small package out of it. So showed you earlier, these are our base personnel guys now. This is not typically our tight end, or sorry, our quarterback. Q is drawn there, but that's usually like our tailback, our best back. This might be the quarterback lead blocking for him. But regardless, for the sake of doing this, let's get it drawn up. So by rule, starting at the point of attack, the receiver is going to crack backer one. All right, and he's got to be physical enough to do that. Now, the tackle and this wing back, especially if you had a 9 technique that was a little bit looser, are going to typically double team the edge defender. He's going to be able to reach this solo all day. This force defender, we do not want to handle with the wing because it's a bad, usually that's a strong safety, physical cat. This is a slot receiver. Just a bad makeup at the point of attack, not what you want to do. So we would double and then climb to backer. And so in this case, we're going to let him go ahead and climb. Now, who we do want to deal with that force defender, especially with the wing going inside, hopefully drawing the force player tighter rather than looser, is this blocking back, all right? And this blocking back is probably the most important dude in the offense. If you have a physical tight end who loves to get after it, if you have a typical old school prototype fullback, he's your guy. I told you earlier that we were just reaching, ripping, and running because it was what we do in our wide zone package. But in single wing, by rule, we tell this tackle to reach or fill. He's going to block down because he doesn't have anything to reach. We would pull the first guard, and he's going to be our alley runner. All right. The second guard pulls for backer two. He's almost like skip pulling if he was in power. Center blocks back. Tight end scoops. All right. And now what you have is the first back. Like I said, this could be your quarterback. He's lead blocking out to the corner, attacking outside shoulder, hopefully causing that corner to stretch, maybe even take himself out of the play. And your best back, your best athlete is being just that, an athlete, following blocks. And I showed you a couple clips of it here. I'll show you one more just for the sake of doing it. We'll go full screen because it's sexy. And then we'll get you out of here. So, again, we shifted to it because, again, just trying to create a little bit of a mismatch. Defense actually reacted fairly well. You could see they're trading their force player. They're trading their edge defender. Now, up front, they did not adjust. They're not even down yet. We snapped the ball because, by rule, you have to be set for a second, which we were. And you can also see that this lead blocker and receiver ended up doubling this corner. And if you look at the wide view, you'll see they doubled him all the way out of the stadium. And he took him all the way back to his sideline, which led to a touchdown. Thanks again for your time. Like I mentioned before, don't hesitate to reach out. Would love to share and talk ball. It's clinic season is one of the few times I feel like I get to do that.
Man, what do you guys think? Did you pick up anything? Anything you can use there in your program, in your offense? I hope you do. Coach has more material below. We'll link that if you want to see that. Members, if you join as a member, you get to see that. But before we let Coach go, let's pick his brain a little bit more. Coach, one thing that comes to mind for me is you said that term physical, right? So a physical run game, or I mean, at the end of the day, single wing, right? You come in, your splits are closer. It's known for being a physical run game. But could you think of something tangible that you could help a newer coach to say? Because I don't think it's just yelling at your kids in a tough, scruffy voice saying, "Be tough."
Yeah.
So what is something tangible that I could take with me to say, this is how I build a physical run game?
The thing that I've always loved about single wing is that it's traditional, old school football. Like, if you have a youth program and you are teaching single wing principles, it's perfect because you're teaching kids how to block and you're teaching kids how to tackle. And the reality is this: if you're doing a good job of it, you're using real technique, you're giving real applicable techniques that can be used in any scheme. When you down block and you're physical and you have weight on your hand and you attack the near via the neck of the defender and you try to pin that defender inside, but not just turning your body and pivoting, but driving through them, or when you base block and you're actually knocking somebody back and making a man give up his ground, and there's nothing better than being able to do that against their will. To me, single wing football teaches all of those base principles, and also allows for you to get a lot of mileage when maybe you don't have a traditional drop back quarterback that can stand tall in the pocket and deliver the ball and distribute it all over the field. That's kind of how the single wing became a thing for us when we were at Apopka. Coach Darlington at the time didn't have a quarterback that he felt could live and die throwing the ball, and so they had to be creative and find a way to get the job done with the athletes we had, and it worked for a long time and still does. You can follow them at DeLand and see that. But for us in Immokalee, we do have a quarterback that we can lean on, and so it's not going to be something we majored in, but it's going to be a part of what we do, and it definitely benefited us this year. So if you're thinking about it, oh, well, it doesn't fit, listen, if you got backs and you got a couple cats that are willing to unselfishly block for one another, then it'll work.
Man, well, Coach, thanks for joining us down here.
Thank you.
Man, glad to have you again. Like we said, click those links below if you want to get more from Coach Delgado. Otherwise, man, we appreciate all your support, whether you're a member or you're just giving us a thumbs up or you're subscribed. Thank you for your support. You want to keep talking ball, we'll be right back here next week, same time, same place, learning more football.